Korea concluded Japan-South Korea Basic Treaty. With this treaty, Japan paid extensive once-and-for-all reparations to South Korea. The treaty determined that these funds were to settle all possible claims of South Koreans, including former comfort women. In fact, during diplomatic negotiation for the treaty, the South Korean government didn't propose the issue of comfort women. Around 1965, politicians of South Korea knew that comfort women were just prostitutes, not sex slaves. If the case of comfort women had been such an humanitarian atrocity, I don't understand why Koreans didn't propose this issue during the diplomatic negotiation of Japan-South Korea Basic Treaty. As I said, South Koreans started criticizing Japan because of comfort women issue only after publishing of Yoshida Seiji's translated book in 1989. As for reparations, it really depended on the South Korean government how to distribute these funds. If comfort women deserve any economic compensation, it's really up to the South Korean government that should be responsible for compensation. However, Japan established a foundation to pay more compensation to former comfort women, and they received money. Because of the Japan-South Korea Basic Treaty, the Japanese government couldn't make direct payment to Koreans. Therefore, the special foundation was established. Furthermore, the Japanese Prime Ministers apologized quite a few times. Not just Prime Minister Miyazawa apologized. Also, in 2007, Prime Minister Abe expressed feelings of grief and sympathy for comfort women. Prime Minister Abe didn't apologize for what Japan didn't do. What Japan didn't do was official coercive recruitment of comfort women, of course. But we know being a comfort woman was not a pleasant experience which one can be proud of. Comfort women, they deserve sympathy. Prime Minister Abe dedicated graceful words of consolation for former comfort women from humanitarian viewpoint. Wasn't that enough? How lies became truth. One question arises. How come former comfort women told so many lies? There must be some reasons. First, they couldn't tell the real reason to become comfort women or prostitutes. Nobody wants to say, hey, my family was so poor, so my parents sold me to a brothel. Nobody wants to say that. It is more convenient to say, oh, one day a bunch of Japanese soldiers rushed into my house, they abducted me, and they forced me to become a comfort woman. I was a victim. By claiming so, they can win sympathy and money. What a convenient lie. Second reason. Few people have enough courage to verify and cross-examine words of former comfort women. Professor An of Seoul University had that exceptional courage. Former comfort women are old ladies. They shout and cry, hey, we were victims, we were sex slaves. Many hesitate to ask them hard questions. Therefore, their lies easily pass as truth. This is a dirty psychological trick to refuse empirical research and verification. Many people are still being conned by Korean propaganda. Third, we need to pay attention to a certain aspect of Korean culture. That's about lying and perjury. Again, I would like to avoid ethnocentric bias, so let's listen to a reliable man, reliable person. He's the editor-in-chief of the Chosun Ilbo, or the Korean Daily News, a major newspaper of South Korea. The editor-in-chief of Chosun Ilbo wrote the following editorial in his newspaper dated March 16, 2012. The title is Lying Politicians and Lying People, and it's about perjury and calumny. Let me explain. Perjury is the offense of willfully telling an untruth or making misrepresentation under oath. Calumny is the offense of making false statements about someone in order to damage his or her reputation. The editorial reads as follows, quote, Year 2010, in Korea, people indicted because of perjury were 66 times more than those in Japan. 66 times more than those in Japan. Considering that Japanese population is 2.5 times bigger than South Korean population, the frequency of perjury in South Korea is 165 times more than in Japan. And also, the frequency of calumny in South Korea is 305 times more than in Japan, unquote. The editor-in-chief of the Korean Daily News, of course, deplores such lying culture of South Korea. It's an objective observation. It's one aspect of Korean culture. By fabricating history about comfort women, in fact, Koreans are disgracing themselves. It's truly tragic that Koreans are not aware of it. Comfort women for American troops. After Japan lost World War II in 1945, forces of the United Nations, mainly American troops, occupied Japan. Before arrival of the U.S. troops, the U.S. government demanded that Japanese government should make facilities to satisfy sexual needs of American soldiers. The Japanese government followed the order and established facilities or prostitution houses under the name of Recreation and Amusement Association, RAA in short. Japan surrendered to the United Nations on August 15, 1945. Only 3 days after the capitulation, RAA was founded. Recreation and Amusement Association was called in Japanese Special Comfort Facility Association. These facilities were exactly like comfort stations of the Japanese military. At its peak, 70,000 women were working for facilities of RAA. Many young Japanese women became comfort women for American troops without coercion. Because Japan was extremely poor, Japan was a defeated country. Not enough food, not enough housing. People must survive. I don't blame Americans. Recreation and Amusement Association was a necessary evil. Who needed this evil? First, the U.S. troops needed it. The American military faced the same problem that the Japanese military had faced before. Second, both the U.S. government and the Japanese government needed it. The Japanese government must protect ordinary Japanese women from possible sex crimes by the U.S. troops. The U.S. government wanted to maintain social order of Japan. RAA was a practical solution to this problem. So were comfort stations of the Japanese military. In 1951, Japan concluded the San Francisco Peace Treaty with the United States and other former adversaries. In 1952, Japan became independent again and occupational forces left Japan. But no Japanese women came out and claimed that she was a sex slave of American troops. There never was protest by the Japanese comfort women against the United States. You may wonder why. Because Japanese are honorable people and not shameless people. Japan endured material hardship as well as mental sufferings of a defeated country. We persevered and rebuilt country. It was too shameful for Japanese women to come out and shout, "Hey, we were sex slaves of American soldiers, we were victims, that you should apologize and compensate us." The Japanese women simply didn't do it. Japanese dignity denied this kind of deed. Japanese women endured and overcame grief. Now the United States and Japan are allies, and the people of both nations are friendly to each other. Once we were adversaries to each other. We should not forget history. Actually, we cannot forget history. Meanwhile, we should not be prisoners of the past. During World War II, ethnic Koreans were faithful nationals of the Japanese Empire. Even though they were free from conscription, some men volunteered to become soldiers of the Japanese Imperial Armed Forces. In 1942, the recruitment goal of the ethnic Koreans was 4,077. 4,077. Amazingly, 254,273 volunteers applied. Overachievement factor reached 62.4. 62.4. They became brave soldiers. ethnic Korean soldiers of Japanese armed forces could enjoy services of comfort women, Japanese or Koreans, or of any nationality. Ethnic Koreans were good members of the Japanese Empire, but after World War II, somehow Koreans decided to become victims and started to blame Japan. Quite inconsistent and irrational behavior. Fact versus fabrication. You have already seen the whole picture of the comfort women issue. Koreans successfully conjured up an image of Japanese Imperial Army rampaging through Korean villages, abducting young Korean women, forcing them to become sex slaves. That never took place. That never happened. If a demagogue tells a lie a million times, do you think the lie becomes truth? Never. It's too hypocritical as well as unfair to single out Japan and bash Japan based on fabrication of history. If you are fair, you will never accuse Japan because of comfort women issue. You will never single out and bash Japan because of comfort women issue. You may still say, hey, I understand now, comfort women were professional prostitutes. Yes, but prostitution is no good. I understand you. That's one point. Prostitution is no good. Prostitution is an evil. Yes, you're right. If asked, everyone would say prostitution is an evil. However, on earth, no country has ever abolished prostitution completely. That's reality. That's the history of mankind. We all have to make efforts to get rid of prostitution in every country. Prostitution is an evil. Yes, it is. If so, I don't understand how come some American cities built monumental memorial of comfort women. That monumental memorial is to praise prostitution, is to praise prostitutes. And the message of the monument is nothing but fabrication. In reality, comfort women were professional prostitutes, and 40% of them were Japanese. To Korean anti-Japan activists, let me say a few words. With fabrication of the past, you cannot recover your national pride. With fabrication, you are deceiving yourselves and you are disgracing your history. A nation which cannot squarely face history doesn't have a future. Koreans achieved great things in history. You don't have to deceive yourselves. I truly appreciate your patience to hear me out. My name is Fujii Genki. Thank you again. God bless you all and see you next time.